Hey everybody, BigBlackHatMan here, and forgive me, I know the lighting's not very good, and hold on, let me move. Wait, let me move some. The lighting's not very good and stuff, and cause I just walked in the door, and you're gonna hear a lot of pops. It's 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. So yeah, you can tell I'm just improvising this. I just got home from the Lone Ranger, and my initial reaction to the film is, I like this movie. I am stunned how much I like this movie. Like, I thought, watching the trailers going forward into this film, knowing where the Lone Ranger comes from, I started to think to myself, this is going to be dumb. This is going to be a dumb movie. I'm not going to enjoy this. But I was wrong. I liked this movie. Now don't get me wrong. Okay, this is kind of a dumb movie. It's silly. It's over the top. But so is the source material. Let me just talk for a second about the source material. Movie Fan 12 first told me about this film like a year and a half ago. Maybe it's almost been 2 years now. When they first were going into pre-production on this thing. And my thought then was, how are they going to do a Lone Ranger film? Because Lone Ranger is out of this B and serial and TV tradition that was silly and over the top and designed for kids. So a lot of things that an audience just can accept today happen in that sort of medium. And they managed to get that in this film. And so I didn't ever dream they'd actually do a real serious dedication to the B-Western. And that's what this is. And so maybe that's one of the reasons I feel like I'm kind of gushing on the film, is that here's a film that's a dedication to the B-Western that's actually better than most B-Westerns you could watch. I, for the most part, don't like watching B-Westerns. They're kind of boring. They're over the top. They're silly. The characters aren't very interesting. And that has a lot of these traits. But it's fun. I had fun watching this film. And they really actually paid tribute to the Lone Ranger. Like, they gave him a reason to wear the mask. And they gave him a reason for the silver bullet. And they gave him a reason for silver. And okay, let me collect myself for just a second here. When Django Unchained came out last year, everybody said, what a great dedication to spaghetti westerns. Almost better than watching a real spaghetti western. This is not that good. Okay, the Lone Ranger is not on Django Unchained level, don't get me wrong. But it's kind of the same concept, because this is taking the silly B and serial and what became TV's, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry. Sit down as a modern audience trying to watch those old things. They're kind of hard to watch because they're just so friggin' silly. And this was that silly, but it knew it and it embraced it and said, boy, we're going to just go over the top with everything. And they did, and it works for the most part. I think anyway. I know a lot of people are going to look at this and go, this is just too friggin' silly, and the plot is so meandering, it's all over the place, and the bad guys are so unbelievably, painfully obvious. But that's a B-Western. That's exactly what a B-Western is, and they actually paid heed to it. See, I said one of the most common complaints when we adapt, when we bring things to the modern day, is that we disassociate from the source material. This embraced the source material, grabbed it with both hands and pulled it in. Johnny Depp's Tonto, as silly it is for the whole character, is just completely ridiculous. But man, he's like pulled right out of there. Jay Silverhills honestly might be a little bit proud of Johnny Depp's performance in this. He's passed away, unfortunately, but he was the original Tonto on TV, for those who aren't aware, in the 40s and 50s. I actually had fun watching this film. I don't know if I'll go run out and buy it on Blu-ray like I did Django Unchained, but I might, because this was a fun friggin' film. And Armie Hammer is so silly, and he's trying to play the white-hatted good guy for most of the film, like the characters were back then. He's even got the great big white hat, which, like, that's great. Give him the great big white hat. And during the climax, I'm trying not to give things away about the film, but during the climax, they used the William Tell Overture. For people who don't know anything about the Lone Ranger, the William Tell Overture was his theme song. That when that kicked up, time for the Lone Ranger to go to work. He was going to take down the bad guys. And they use it, and Hans Zimmer did the music for this, and I could tell, because it's a pretty good score, and that, I mean, there was some, okay, so let me get into, I'm kind of guessing, right, because I just had fun with this film. After let me say my expectations of this film were pretty low. Like I said, I saw the previews and the trailers, and I started to think, man, there's no way this is gonna work. This is gonna just be dumb, and I'm gonna get bored because they're not gonna have written a very good story and very good characters, and they didn't. But at the same time, they did something different, and so I kind of appreciate that. I know a lot of people are gonna watch this film and not like it because I feel like this film was designed for me, a Westerns fan, someone who has a pretty good knowledge of Western history. And so I could see people who don't know that stuff being like, why is this so silly? Why is this so over the top? Why the bad guy's so obvious? Why is the we got the one villain, Fitchner, what was it? I can't remember his name in the film. The actor's name is Fitchner. Had the big old scar. He's such an obvious villain. Everything in this film is like, slap you upside the head, stupid obvious, and they're trying to hide it, but they're not really. That's the B Western. And so I was really looking at this as an adaptation in a way of not just The Lone Ranger, but as that era of film itself. And I thought, man, they're not going to do that. They're not going to embrace that silly, over-the-top B-Western style. By God, they did. And I am pleasantly surprised by that. I don't know how many people will be pleasantly surprised by that. I might be the exception to that rule. Enjoying the whole... I've had a long day, my hair's all messy. Enjoying that embrace of something. I mean, and there's stupidity in this film, don't get me wrong. Helen Bonham Carter, she plays a character in this, sort of this head madam. She could be taken out of the film and it wouldn't make a lick of difference. Like every scene virtually that she's in could be cut out and it really wouldn't matter. She's got one cool little trick that she does, and it kind of fits in a way, and so it works a little bit. But on the other hand, like I said, the character could be, and it wouldn't really matter if her character was completely gone from the film. Other than that, well, I'm trying to think what I want to say about this film, because like I said, the B-Western element is what really got me, how much they actually dedicated to that sort of thing. Johnny Depp is funny in this film. He is the comic relief, and it was tradition in Westerns for a long time to have a comic relief character. It's a tradition that Walter Brennan and Gabby Hayes and a lot of these guys who kind of faded away in later years sort of came out of. Chief Dan George in the 70s a little bit with a couple of films kind of picked it back up a little bit, but it never. But here he is playing this character that's sort of gone, this character who's funny. But I give him this: he actually contributes to the story, and he's got a very interesting backstory. Well, not super interesting, but it's good enough to carry along through it. And I've heard people say, I've already heard one of the criticisms of the film is it's Tonto the movie because Depp's character just dominates over the Lone Ranger. I don't think that that's the way it was written. I don't think it's the way it was directed and presented. It's because Depp is that good an actor and he's that charismatic, and so he just kind of overshadows Armie Hammer, who's playing the good guy, who's playing the guy who's good no matter what, which was the good guy you got out of those. The good guys out of a lot of B-Westerns aren't that interesting characters. They're pretty much flat, virtually Mary Sue's, virtually untouchable. Though they do get the Lone Ranger injured a little bit in this film off and on, which is kind of nice in a way, but so it does depart a little bit from the B-Western there. And then, of course, there's a little more violence than you would have gotten in a B-Western because, back then it was, you shoot somebody, there's no blood, and they fall down. Though I will say they did limit they had some of those fall down deaths, which was kind of neat in a way because, like I said, it's more dedication to that. I feel like I'm rambling, and I am rambling because I'm just trying to sort through my thoughts. I literally just walked out of the film. I walked out 20 minutes ago is all. So I'm going to make this quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the film because I'm going to do something cinematic, and I think I'll get a better chance to sort of set through my thoughts and talk about what I liked and didn't like on that show. I just want to give an initial reaction. That is, if you're a Western fan who appreciates the history of Westerns, appreciates B-Westerns, likes the fact they came out of the serials, this is a good movie. This is a movie that pays heed to those things and does it well. I think for non-Western fans, they're going to look at it and just see it as silly. But for me, it kind of had this appeal. It really hit a chord with me. It's like, I was surprised they hit that chord. And maybe that's why I'm so happy at the moment. Maybe on second view, and I go, hey, maybe this isn't as good as I thought. But right now, I'm kind of happy about it. I enjoyed it, and so there's my thoughts on the Lone Ranger upon initial viewing. This short little review. I'm just going to cut this short and just like I said, listen to something cinematic. I think we'll have a lot more in-depth analysis when we go on there. So happy trails and watch out for those rough patches.